This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
All right, proof that I am a man of my word. Last week I told you we'd see you again, so here we are. Minus Kenny, who's enjoying a little R&R, something we hope you will do in the next 30 minutes. Rest, relax, and enjoy the show. Coming up, the right to farm and raw milk. Two issues of great importance to the Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team as they continue to advocate for farmers and producers at the state capitol. We're going to dive into some of the other issues of concern and explain how raw milk could benefit the struggling dairy industry here in Georgia. Now that UGA has completed their annual Ag Forecast meetings, or in this particular case, meeting as in singular, what's the outlook for farmers? Good, bad, maybe somewhere in between? We'll have a full report. Plus, see what happened when I ventured to Perry to learn all about the art of horse cutting, and as an added bonus, wound up spending time with an NFL legend who is quite the rider himself, the great Mel Blount, on how cutting played a huge role in helping him reach the Pro Football Hall of Fame. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor. With Georgia lawmakers back in session, the GFB public policy team is hard at work in Atlanta advocating for farmers and making sure their rights are protected. Damon Jones looks at some of the priority issues they're hoping to advance and how they benefit the entire industry.
The halls are once again bustling within the Georgia State Capitol, and that means the Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team is busy pushing the farmers' agenda with a number of priority issues. And at the top of that list is a concern they've been working on for years.
This year, right to farm is our number one priority. It's been an issue we've worked on extensively in the past, and it has become extremely controversial in the past. So, we're working on basically getting that up and off the ground here this year. We've got a lot of legislators who are very interested in it and want to get it across the finish line. Things started out as a very simple piece of legislation, and then as it went on, it kind of got amended. Things added onto it that we didn't necessarily think were going to be best for it. So we want to get back to the basics, get back to a very simple piece of legislation.
Another bill being introduced is designed to help a struggling sector of the agricultural industry by providing another possible source of income for their producers.
So in the past, raw milk has been available and legal for sale as a pet food. They're looking at maybe bringing that up to kind of a grade A standard, so that way it can be safely offered to consumers that want to purchase it for themselves and consume it. Small dairies in particular, it just becomes very difficult for them to continue on. So this could potentially provide them an avenue to continue operating. Raw milk is able to bring a premium price as it is considered, a premium product.
With a big percentage of their input costs coming in the form of repairs to their machinery, the proposed right to repair bill would greatly benefit the farmers by granting them access to the proper guidelines and technology in order to fix their own equipment.
It stems even further outside of agriculture, dealing with things like cell phones and laptops and the repair of those consumer items. But it's very important for agriculture as well to make sure that our farmers are able to have the tools and the software that is needed to make, kind of common everyday repairs on their tractors and equipment.
The start of the new year also means a proposed budget for the coming year, and that will include a few provisions to help advance agriculture within the state.
There is a little over $1.8 million put in for the Georgia Agricultural Trust Fund. This is going to be dollars that are used for operations and maintenance at our state's farmers markets, as well as promotion and general marketing of Georgia agricultural products. So this is a governor's priority issue for this year, and he put in his proposed budget $800,000 basically to try and get excess product from farmers in Georgia linked up with food banks throughout the state. That way they can provide really good, healthy, nutritious food to folks in those communities that really need it.
Reporting from Fulton County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
In Augusta recently, GFB County presidents gathering for their annual conference, although this was the first face-to-face meeting since 2017. Of course, local officials, a crucial part of Farm Bureau's grassroots structure, and this meeting gives each president a chance to hear leadership updates and gather information. Something Georgia Farm Bureau President Tom McCall hopes they will implement in their respective counties.
They have been available to some real good breakout sessions. I've learned some stuff, and I hope some of these new presidents learn the resources that are available to them, and some of the more seasoned presidents learn some of the resources that are available to them to take back home and use and expand Farm Bureau in their counties.
President McCall, a busy man, just days after the meetings in Augusta, he made his way to Thomaston for the Georgia Farm Bureau District 5 Hog Show, where more than 75 students were given a chance to show off their animals in front of a packed house at the Upson Lee Ag Center. It's an annual event that spotlights all their hard work, but also the community's investment into the future of agriculture.
Great turnout today. It's just a lot of fun to come out and support these kids and see them actually exhibit their project that they've worked hard on, that they've been able to see these animals grow, and they put feed and time and work and effort into it, and they see it grow into a productive project. A lot of parents just like myself, and then other community members just like organizations like Farm Bureau are willing to spend time investing in our young people to teach them things like responsibility, teach them how to work, teach them how to take care of an animal, things like that.
Now, meantime, traditionally, UGA holds its annual ag forecast meetings at locations throughout Georgia, but this year they combined them into just one session. And the information that was shared, not exactly what farmers and producers wanted to hear. John Holcomb now on why the majority shouldn't expect to see much of a profit, if any at all, in the months ahead.
In Tifton recently, the University of Georgia held their annual ag forecast, a time where economists discussed the fiscal outlook for different sectors of the ag industry for the year. One of the biggest highlights of the event was getting to hear from Jeffrey Dorfman, a professor of economics at UGA and the state's fiscal economist, who gave an update on the state's agricultural economy. His message this year: 2022 is going to be a tough one.
Commodity prices are reasonably strong. They're certainly not low. Now, they're not all super high, but they're solid. They're in good enough shape that I think most farmers can break even this year. It's going to be a tough 2022 probably, but I think farmers have the financial resources to get through that. And so if they can just sort of survive and kind of break even in 2022, 2023 will probably be a better year.
According to Dorfman, the biggest challenge for this year will be the cost of production thanks to input costs. For instance, diesel has risen 35%, pallets 32%, and fertilizer 85 to 125%. And unfortunately, no one knows when or if those prices will come back down.
Producers' big issue right now is input costs, which are just super high, have gone up a lot in the last 12 months, and they're hoping those stabilize or come down. The biggest thing driving input costs right now is just the cost of petroleum products. So gas is up, and gas being up means fertilizer is up, it means plastic is up. Just a whole lot of the inputs we use in agriculture, chemicals, they all come from petroleum or use a lot of petroleum in getting them made. And so that's kind of forced most input costs up, and then just supply chain issues and the cost of transportation. And again, why is transportation high? Because the gas or diesel you put in the trucks is expensive. I don't think they're going to continue to go up. So I think the question is, are they going to stay where they are, or are they going to come back down? Some of them will surely come back down as things normalize. But with energy prices, you just can't predict energy prices. I mean, whatever the price is right now is the best prediction of the future.
However, there is some good news. According to Dorfman, farmers and producers that rely on exports should be in good shape this year, as export costs have declined and Georgia's ports are freed up.
Georgia ports have no backlog, so we can get our products out of the Georgia ports. Second, container prices are starting to come down some. So if you rely on exports of your commodities, that transport to those foreign markets is getting more affordable, and that should help boost our sales. So I think if you're an export-oriented farmer, you're the ones I have some good news for.
At the end of the day, though, it all comes down to being able to meet your bottom line, which is why Dorfman suggests really making an effort to track money in and out to be sure you're on the right track.
I think the most important thing in 2022 is to track your costs of production. You need to keep track of the price you're paying for inputs, how much of those inputs you're using. Prices are so unusual right now that the sort of old rules of thumb you used for pricing when you went to sell your products won't work. You need you need a computer or pencil and paper and keep track of what it's actually costing you to grow those commodities, so you're sure when you sell them you're at least breaking even or hopefully making a profit.
Reporting in Tifton for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
John, thanks so much. When we come back, it's a showdown like no other. Horse versus cattle. Bend but don't break. Cowboy confidence. It's the annual Augusta Futurity, and one of the cowboys you'll hear from has a bust in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, welcome back to the Farm Monitor. The poultry industry, both here in Georgia and across the globe, well represented in Atlanta recently for the 2022 International Production and Processing Expo. Its purpose to showcase the latest equipment and innovation and allow people from the industry a chance to network and collaborate. Mike Giles, president of the Georgia Poultry Federation, says it's also a way to celebrate the industry's success and keep it moving forward.
One of the hallmarks of the poultry industry is improving efficiencies and innovation, and this is where those things are showcased. So it's where the poultry industry from the entire world that come to Atlanta every year to see and interact with vendors and learn more about things that trends and things that are happening in the poultry industry.
Raise your hand if you're like me. Love the show Yellowstone. Wished you had the swagger of John Dutton and the meanness of a Rip Wheeler. Yeah, they're proof that cowboying is cool, right? And how about all those horse skills we see from time to time? The sliding and the cutting. That's also pretty cool. Well, did you know every year since 1980, cowboys from across the country have traveled to Georgia to show off their horse cutting skills at the annual Augusta Futurity. Now, this year's event was moved to Perry due to renovations at its traditional location in Augusta. And when I read and heard about it, I decided it was something I had to see for myself. And let me tell you, folks, these cowboys don't play around. And to my surprise, one of the cowboys I met is actually a former pro football player and veteran of multiple Super Bowls. To better understand the sport of cutting, one must first understand the special bond between man, beast, and in this case, man's best friend.
Well, a horse has to really trust the rider, and the rider has to trust the horse. If there's any tension between the two of them, each of them can feel it. A horse is very sensitive. They move their skin when a fly lands on them, so anything that you do with your body, they feel. And if if you're having a really good run, the horse takes over and really trusts you. These horses have been bred for generations to do this. They're like a cow dog, that's a border collie that's bred to work cattle. And what it takes is just mainly their natural instincts. We're not making these horses do this. With the freedom they have with us showing them, if we had to make them do it, it wouldn't go very well. So the horses that you see perform well, they were made for this.
And this event, which began 42 years ago this month, was custom made for Georgia, livestock enthusiasts, and venues like this one. One of its original co-founders is Billy Morris, a media mogul and Augusta native who also co-founded the National Barrel Horse Association and whose shows consistently contribute millions of dollars to local economies. Sherry Fulmer, Augusta Futurity Show director, has been on board since 1982 and says despite the show's popularity and attraction, it's arguably one of the best kept secrets in Georgia.
You know, the great thing is that we were cutting in Augusta before cutting was cool, really and truly. We've been here, this is our 42nd show annually. We are the largest cutting east of the Mississippi River. We started that way 42 years ago. We believe in the cowboy way of life. We believe in all the things that you believe that cowboys stand for, and we have just kept on keeping on all these years.
At first glance, cutting may look like just another horse competition. Far from it. This sport features some of the country's best cowboys, cowgirls, horses, and cattle. Additionally, the rules, system of scoring, and elements of a good run are also unique. And it all starts with the dirt.
You got a basis already in here, and then you put about 3 inches of sand, which is on top of the basis already here, where the horses can kind of slide, but they get a bite where they can go back across the arena while they're cutting the cow.
Scott Brown is another Futurity veteran and knows exactly what the competitors want and need. Aside from driving the tractor and leveling dirt, Brown has traveled the world both working and competing in barrel horse racing from as far away as China and France. He owns and operates a farm just outside of Athens, and although it's not the first place one thinks of when cowboys come to mind, Brown says the cowboy way of life and the Futurity is the only way of life for him.
It's just a certain kind of a passion that everybody has for cutting horses and working, because you got the Yellowstone movie that's came out, and it's all about the cowboy atmosphere now.
One of those cowboys and ambassadors of cutting is a legend in a totally different sport. A person who back in the day actually despised cowboys. More specifically, the Dallas Cowboys. Mel Blount. If that name sounds familiar, it should. In the 1970s and early 80s, Mel won 4 Super Bowls as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. In 1989, he was enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In addition to all that weight training and intense workouts, Mel credits cutting with helping him stay healthy and strong throughout his playing career. He says in many ways, cutting is just like football.
It's a test of the wills between the animals, and the horse is the star. So you want your horse to have that desire, just like an athlete. He has to want to do it, he has to have the heart, and he has to have the ability. And so I enjoy the sport because there's so many variables, so many things can go wrong, but when it goes right, it's the best feeling in the world. And so I've been doing it since 1970, and I just love it. It's a fascinating game. I would ride every off season, and believe it or not, it's a good exercise. It's good for your legs, especially your groins, and so I never had any leg issues when I played football, and I credit a lot of that to the horses.
What an ambassador Mel Blount is. And when he gets here, he's just like everybody else. He's watching the horses, he's into the athleticism of the horse and the riding, and he just forgets himself.
And the man still looks like he could play today. Well, don't forget, if you missed any part of the story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. Plenty of content and a variety of subjects to choose from going all the way back to 2009. And while you're there, keep clicking, like the Farm Monitor Facebook page. Also, if you have a story idea, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address on your screen, news@farm-monitor.com. Up next, understanding the science behind pigweed's amazing adaptation and what's being done to combat the problem. Stay tuned.
Weeds have always been a problem in agriculture. The newest challenges facing agriculture today are a changing climate and rapid development of resistance in weeds to many herbicides. While some weeds in a population may survive stresses from herbicides, competition, drought, and heat, the plants we depend on for our survival may be less tolerant and struggling. One weed that's particularly resilient and of great concern to the farmer is Amaranthus palmeri, better known as pigweed. It has developed an amazing ability to resist many of the chemicals used to control it. Pigweed can reach as tall as 8 to 10 feet, often dwarfing the intended crop, with a single mature female plant capable of releasing up to 500,000 seeds. It's extremely challenging for growers to harvest their crops without further spreading the weed, either by inadvertently transporting from field to field in grain and on farm equipment, or carried by animal and bird, delivered in droppings on their journeys. In fields heavily infested, harvesting becomes impossible, resulting in loss of income, as harvesting can cause excessive damage to field equipment. In many cases, farmers choose to skip over the affected areas, leaving behind crops and cutting into their income. The versatility of pigweed drove ARS's Dr. William Mullen and a handful of scientists to find a new way of combating this problem. Instead of just adding more chemicals as a control solution, these scientists hypothesized the idea of looking for a natural solution. They turned to the pigweed itself to understand why it was able to adapt so well. After 5 years of study, Dr. Mullen and his primary collaborator from Clemson University, Dr. Christopher Saski, found something new, or maybe something that's been there all along and we just now are discovering it. Most importantly, it could be the key to understanding cell adaptation on a larger scale. The mechanism by which pigweed survives was a natural molecular mechanism, completely designed and selected for by pigweed itself. It represents a new mechanism of transmission of genetic information previously unknown at this scale. With this discovery, we may someday be able to control pigweed and other nuisance weeds and invasive plants. More importantly, we may be able to improve desired crops, giving them the same ability to thrive in a changing environment and possibly even resist threats from new invasive insects and pathogens. Who knows where we'll go from here?
Finally this week, ask any dairy farmer what their idea of the perfect cow is, and chances are they will say one that can produce large quantities of milk, deliver a healthy calf each year, and stay healthy herself for many lactations. Miles Ramsey of Holstein Association USA reports on how genomic technology is helping dairy producers achieve these goals.
Veterinarian Matthew Boyle of Zoetis says the dairy industry has changed a great deal over the course of his career, and there's more on the horizon too.
The Holstein cow is doing things today that we wouldn't have dreamed of when I graduated almost 20 years ago. I mean, we have herds that are getting 100 pounds of milk volume. They're selling 7 pounds of combined fat and protein. They are getting over a 30% preg rate. They have cell counts under 100,000.
This progress is the result of everyday decisions on the farm, decisions to improve management, nutrition, and the environment, and to employ genomic technology using the Clarified Plus suite of DNA tests.
On a herd-to-herd basis, we do a lot of genomic audits where we look at and say, okay, you've invested in Clarified Plus. Here's what the test said was going to happen. Here's what the test predicted on your cows, and here's what the actual outcome was.
The outcomes are outstanding, Boyle says. Production is on the rise, cows are staying in the herd longer, and overall health is improving.
With the cow wellness traits and the calf wellness traits helping us build herds that are less likely to experience those conditions, less likely to need an antibiotic intervention.
As dairymen are increasingly under more pressure from consumers to ensure antibiotic stewardship and animal health, Boyle says genomics can help breeders build herds that don't require health intervention.
I think that's what the consumer is at least indirectly asking for. It's what more and more what processors of raw food products are asking for directly.
Because genomic testing generates such large quantities of data, Boyle says it's important for dairy producers to have a plan on how to use the data to their advantage.
Having a collaborative effort at an individual farm to say, okay, now we've got all this information, what are we going to do to help this particular farm move ahead?
Learn more about Clarified Plus and other dairy resources at dairywellness.com. For Holstein Association USA, I'm Miles Ramsey.
Our thanks to Miles Ramsey and Holstein USA for that report. Hey, before we go, all of us here at the show want to congratulate Turner County peanut producer and Georgia Farm Bureau board member Scotty Rains on recently being named Georgia Farmer of the Year. Of course, we will have much more on that in the weeks to come. For Kenny, John, Damon, Dean, I'm Ray DeLesio saying take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. See you next week.